that's not the colonel.
Okay. Okay, it's 24 May 2001. We're at the Jamaica National Guard Armory in Jamaica, New York. We're interviewing Mr. William Mark, M. William Mark. My name is Wayne Clarke. I'm the videographer, and the interviewer is Lieutenant Colonel Rob von Hasseln. Mr. Mark, tell us a little bit about your family and when and where you were born.
I was born November the 5th, 1917. And I was born on the Lower East Side in Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
And we lived in a cold flat. My mother had 7 children. There was 3 rooms, and there was a coal stove. There was no toilets in the house, except out in the hall there was a toilet. And living quarters wasn't too good. So my uncle, who was a butcher in Brooklyn, New York, he had a house on 12th Avenue, and he figured he would give us an apartment in his house, which was 6 rooms. It was you know, for a family like us, for a big family, it was wonderful to have a big apartment. Then, as I grew older, I went to different schools, and mainly I was technically inclined, and my brothers weren't like myself. Because when I was small, I used to be interested in a lot of technical things, and cars and automobiles and airplanes. And so I never dreamt that later on in life that I'd be flying in the Air Corps.
Now, tell me, what did your father do for a living?
Well, my father was a tailor. He was working in the tailor shop, in the sweatshop. Those days, they had real sweatshops. So maybe he was working 18 hours a day to support the family. And later on, you know, they formed unions, and they got better wages, and things got better.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, life was very tough. And my mother had 7 children, and we lived in 3 rooms in the cold flat, and we didn't even have a toilet in the house. The toilet was outside in the hall. And I remember one time, somebody stuffed up the toilet, and everything came running down the steps. It was terrible, you know. So my mother was very good-natured. When she used to make big pots of food for us, and whatever was left, she wouldn't want to throw it out. So she would send me down. At that time, I think it was called Esther Park. She would send me down to give the rest of the food to the bums in the park. So it was miserable living in that house, but I was very small at that time. Then after my uncle, who was a butcher in Borough Park, he had a house on 12th Avenue, and this was around 44th Street, and he had an empty apartment, and he was willing to give us this apartment. Mm-hmm. So it was 6 rooms, and of course we had a bathroom in there, and hot and cold water running faucets, and it was, you know, it was nice to be in a house like that. But this was before the Depression, and then he figured that to make more money, he would like to knock that house down and build up an apartment house. So he went around, he didn't have enough money, and he went around borrowing money from the family, and he built up this apartment house. In the meantime, we had to find another place to stay. So we found another 6-room apartment house, and didn't have any steam heat. It had hot air for heating, but it had a porch, and it was very nice to live there. So it's a long story anyway.
Now, how old were you at this point?
Well, I was very young. I was maybe 9 or 10 years old.
Tell me about where you went to school.
Well, I went to different schools. In the neighborhood, there was PS 131. It was a public school. And then I went to another school where we lived on 41st Street. I don't remember the name of it. But I graduated from there, and then I went to, I remember the high school we went to Strawberry High School on West 18th Street in New York City. And why I went there was because they had technical courses. And I was always interested in technical courses, and so it was interesting to go through school, and I graduated that school. And shortly thereafter, the Army was drafting a lot of people at that time, before World War II. And I was one of the early draftees. I just wanted to finish my course, and I was taking oil burner mechanics in the evening because at that time oil burner mechanics was a big thing at that time. So I just wanted to finish this course, and many of these fellows who were supposed to go into the draft, they came down with their parents and all, and they tried to get out of it. And I came down all alone. I said, look, I'm not trying to get away from the draft. I just want to finish the course. And they said, okay, they'll let me finish the course. So I thought then they would never call me, but 8 months later, they finally called me. And it was August the 1st, 1941. I was drafted into the service. This was before World War II. And I was sent down to Camp Clarke, South Carolina for training, basic training. And then after the basic training, they saw I had an aptitude for technical courses. So I was put in I was put in a different outfit. It was called wire and telephone and switchboard. And you had to climb up poles to draw the lines. So I was trained for that. And when I got through with that course, then after they sent me out to Fort Dix to join the National Guard outfit, which was the 44th Division. This was just before World War II. And these guys were coming back from combat. They were a bunch of ruffies.
Now, this was, by this time, Pearl Harbor had been attacked.
No, not yet. But very shortly thereafter, while I was with this outfit, but, you know, we were new personnel in the outfit. I think there were 6 or 8 of us that were sent there. We were supposed to be connected with headquarters company. And they were flying pigeons instead of working with telephones. Well, anyway, they got dismissed because they were on maneuvers for the weekend, and they were supposed to go home and enjoy themselves, and they left us to take care of the post. And then Pearl Harbor broke out, and boy, there was a lot of commotion. You probably got that in my biography.
We'd like to get it on tape. Just
yeah,
continue.
so they were trying to get all the guys back that were from the National Guard, get us back because it was turmoil, because Pearl Harbor was there, and they were knocking down a lot of ships and planes, and they thought the Japanese were going to come to to the West Coast. And there was so much turmoil going on, and we were afraid of everything because we never knew that the Japanese were going to attack us. So when they called back most of the personnel, then they got us together, and we were supposed to train the other troops that were coming in the service at that time. So it took about a month's time before we got our guests together, and they were sending us out to Camp Claiborne in Louisiana to train other personnel for the war. But in the meantime, the colonel needed an orderly, and every orderly he had, his name was Manton Eddy. He was a full colonel, and he was in charge of the division. And I never saw him, but I was connected with headquarters company. So they picked on me because they figured maybe I might be suitable. So I came to his, they gave him a little house to stay in. And when I came to his house, the bed was all messed up and the bathroom was messed up and everything was messed up. So I tried to straighten out the house. And he had a lot of change on the table, so I collected all the change and I put it in a plate on the side. And after I got the house all straightened out, he was coming back, and he was surprised to see everything was in order. So he had me as his orderly. I was his orderly. I didn't like the job because this was not for me, but anyway, you know, he was a colonel and I was only a private. And then we were supposed to be training other troops, so we were sent down to Camp Claiborne in Louisiana. Maybe you heard of it. So we were supposed to train other troops because this was the National Guard. I was connected with the National Guard, the 44th Division. And so I had to put up the tent and get the colonel comfortable and all because I was his orderly. And I could see that this was not for me, but there was no way to get out of it. So when I got down to Camp Claiborne, I figured the only way to get out of it is maybe they told the colonel that I'm interested in radio, becoming a radio operator. So when we got to the West Coast, Fort Lewis, Washington, he sent me to radio school, and I was going to radio school, and I was trained to be a radio operator, and I didn't know Morse code, but anyway, I learned Morse code and all, and I thought that this would be my job because they were taking advantage of me in the 44th Division because I was a private, and they had all the stripes and I didn't have it, and they were trying to give me all the details to do. So I figured if I become a radio operator, then I'll be proficient in this. And so in the long run, I became a radio operator. I passed the course, and instead of making me a radio operator, they made me do a lot of detail. There was a KP of 1 week and a guard doing another week. I said, I have to get out of this house in some way. So one day I was on a servicemen's club, and they needed people in the Air Corps. So I figured, well, maybe I want to join the Air Corps. So at that time, they needed a lot of personnel in the Air Corps, and I joined the Air Corps. And I was in the beginning, initially I was connected with an outfit that was training to be in the Air Corps. But basically what they were doing was getting enough men to join the Air Corps together because I was connected with headquarters company. And headquarters company, basically, I knew the Morse code, and I was supposed to be a valuable person, but instead of doing Morse code, I was doing KP and doing all the guard duty and other menial work. So then, it came about.
So you went to cadet school?
Yeah, I went to cadet school. They couldn't get me out of cadets because the Army then needed a lot of people in the Air Force.
Now, what was cadet school like?
Well, cadet school, the basic training, you know, we did a lot of stuff about airplanes and stuff that we had to do, and then after we went into, they determined what we were best suited for, and I was suited for navigation.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
according to my test, I was suited for navigation, so they sent me to navigation school.
no, whereabouts was that school?
The what?
Whereabouts was your navigation school?
My navigation school? I was in Camp Croft, in South Carolina initially. And then Fort Lewis, Washington. I moved over to Fort Lewis, Washington. And I got my basic training there, and I'm trying to remember some of the stuff that I had. And I was trained to be a navigator.
Uh-huh.
So during the war, I was really a navigator.
Was that a hard school?
Well, it was, you know, you had to learn a lot of different stuff with the cadets. And I was trained, and I became a navigator. Mm-hmm. And I was a navigator for during the whole war, you know.
So you were a navigator, you were trained?
I trained to be a navigator.
On a
B-17. B-17s, we were flying B-17s at that time.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to recollect some of the stuff that I have to know.
Okay, once you completed your navigation school,
Navigation school.
you went to a B-17 unit?
I was a B-17 navigator.
Uh-huh.
But trying to recollect. Can you stop there a minute? I don't know where it is.
Okay, Mr. Mark, I see that once you completed your navigation training, you went to Ellington, Texas.
Yeah, I had my basic training there.
And, okay.
And then I was San Marcos, Texas. I had advanced training in navigation.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I was suited for. And
okay, once you completed your training, did you get any kind of leave at all to come home?
I don't recall. I don't think we did. There was a war run, and they really needed personnel to do their duties. And I'm trying to recall.
Okay.
Can you stop the camera for a while?
Okay. I see here that they shipped you over to Tunis, North Africa.
That's right.
You went across on a ship.
On a ship, right.
How long was that trip? Do you recall?
On a ship. Tunis, Africa. I'm trying to recall. You got this thing running?
Uh-huh.
Maybe you better stop it. I'm trying to recall some of the incidents.
Okay, sir. I see that you went to Tunis, North Africa via a ship, and you were living in tents with the 15th Air Force.
That's right.
301st Bomb Group.
301st Bomb Group.
352nd Squadron.
Right.
Can you tell us anything about one of your typical 8-hour missions you recall?
Well, there were several missions that we had to fly, and every mission was you never knew when you were coming back.
Uh-huh.
But trying to remember.
Now,
It's a little slipping there.
do you remember how many people were in your crew?
There isn't a crew. There was a bombardier, a navigator. I was a navigator.
Uh-huh.
And there was a pilot and co-pilot. And there was a waist gun. I don't remember. I think there was 2 waist gunners.
Uh-huh.
And there was a tail gunner. And there was a ball turret gunner. And
was there a gunner like that?
on the turret,
On the
top turret.
top turret, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, did you mostly fly with the same crew, or did you get bounced around a lot?
Mine is slipping.
Oh, that's all right.
I think I was with mostly the same crew,
Okay.
but then then later on, I think I was with different crews,
Now, did you normally fly on the same airplane, or did you fly on different ships?
Can you stop the camera a minute?
Okay,
Most of this is really true.
Mr. Mark, I'm reading here that on 24 February 1944, your bomb group was flying over the Alps to hit targets in Central Europe.
Right.
And you were overcome by enemy fighters.
Right.
And all of a sudden your plane was badly damaged and you were on fire and out of control.
Right.
And your pilot signaled to bail out, and you did from over 20,000 feet. Can you tell us a little about that, what that was like?
It was very scary, you know. 20,000 feet, there's no oxygen up there.
Uh-huh.
And, you know, coming down.
Were you must have been scared. I take it you probably never jumped out of an airplane before, did
Never
you?
did. This is my first time.
Uh-huh.
And when I was coming down, I don't know, it was my mind is failing.
Now, do you recall that, did everybody get out okay? Did everybody jump out?
I believe everybody jumped out of the plane, right.
Uh-huh. Okay, and it says here that your parachute harness nearly slipped off over your head during the descent.
Right.
That must have been pretty scary.
Yeah, that was very scary. I never knew I could come down.
Uh-huh.
And I was a POW for 15 months in Stalg Luft 1 in Barth, Germany.
How was that? What kind of treatment did you get there? Do you recall if you and your fellow crew were there together?
I'm trying to remember a lot of these things that happened.
Okay. I see that you spent 15 months as a POW.
15 months at Stalg Luft,
One
Germany.
in Barth, Germany. Do you recall what your typical daily life was like during that time?
Well, the big thing is that we never had enough food to eat.
Uh-huh.
We never had enough food to eat. And,
was it cold there?
And that's very true. It was very cold. It was in the middle of the winter. And
do you recall how many guys were in each building?
in a German prison camp?
Well, I imagine you guys, there were so many men to a building, probably.
Which building you're talking about? When
Well,
we were captured?
In the POW camp.
In the POW camp.
Okay, that's all right. Now, do you remember, did anybody try to escape at all?
We tried, there was a few people that tried to escape.
Uh-huh.
And those that tried to escape, and if they were captured, they were not treated very well.
Uh-huh. Now, did they force you to work at all while you were there?
Well, since we were officers, they didn't make us work.
Uh-huh.
So we just trying to maintain our spirits, and
How did you get the day in? Did you guys play cards or play ball or anything like that?
my mind is really slipping.
Okay. Do you remember when you were liberated?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. While we were in this prisoner of war camp, we tried to escape.
Uh-huh.
We dug many, that is, not I, but maybe I stood guard when they were digging tunnels to try to escape.
Uh-huh.
And they dug several tunnels, but many of them were not successful.
Uh-huh.
And
Okay.
trying to remember some of the things.
Now, do you remember when you were liberated from the prison camp? Were you liberated by the Russians? You did mention to me that towards the end of your stay, they separated your group they put all the Jewish fellows in one section and everybody else in another section, and you mentioned you weren't sure what the reasoning was behind that.
Well, we knew what they were going to do to us, but my mind is really failing. What's going on?
But fortunately, at that time, the Russians came and liberated you.
That's right.
Okay. Do you remember what happened after that point? Once you were liberated?
I'm trying to remember what happened. My mind all of a sudden started to go blank.
Okay. All right, let me just stop the camera for a second.
You better stop.
Okay, Mr. Mark, I see here that after you were liberated by the Russians, they fed you, took care of you, and then General Eisenhower had sent B-17s to pick you up, and you were flown to a captured airfield in Paris, France.
Right.
Now, once you got to France, do you remember what happened at that point? Did you get sent back home, or did you go in a hospital?
I'm trying to recollect some things. All of a sudden my mind went blank. Is that thing recording?
Just relax. Let me ask you this. Once the war ended and you came back home, do you recall what you did at that point? Did you go back to school, or did you get a job? Or
You better stop the camera because
Okay.
I'm trying to, I don't even remember coming in this place, you know?
All right, that's
I
all
don't know
right.
what happened to me.
Let me get a couple of shots here of you in uniform. I see this picture. You're here as a captain, and this other.
In the cadets, I was in the cadets, and then I was in.
Okay, I see you here as a cadet, and these pictures down below here is you and your wife at your youngest daughter's wedding.
Right.
And then here's another shot of you and your wife and the girls when they were younger.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Mr. Mark, what we'll do, we'll continue the interview at a later date.
Can